Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome back. It's been a minute, and I'm so excited to be back on SHEMAKERS Live. Oh my gosh, that song is my jam, Just Fine. I had to do that because not only is Mary J. Blige's Just Fine like my forever mood, she's also the only woman performing with the icons during Super Bowl 56 in LA, in just a week and a half. So I had to give it up for my girl Mary. But again, Happy New Year and welcome back. I am Shavannia Williams, the founder and CEO of Hills and Helmets and the hostess of SHEMAKERS Live. So SHEMAKERS is kicking off its second season tonight. This is the place where we have conversations to help women win in business and life. I have been in sports marketing for more than 20 years now, and my journey has included 5 major sports leagues. In addition to my time in sports, I've spent time working in marketing, communication, sales, and business, politics, as well as an independent consultant. So, of course, I have been in some boardrooms where I was the only woman. My goal is to change that. I'm working to get more women in the boardroom, not only at the head of the table, but with equal pay. And that's part of the reason I started SHEMAKERS Live. I want women to get more resources to learn from each other and to make touchdowns. We know in life, we are not always going to have touchdowns. We're also going to have some fumbles. And that's why I like to have a real candid conversation during my time on SHEMAKERS Live so that people feel encouraged to get back up and keep going. I have been able to do that, but not alone. There's a huge village supporting me, and I am so grateful to have them on my team. Throughout my career, I've been really fortunate to meet and work with some very talented people who are not only killing the game, but share my passion to help other women succeed. And those are the type of people I have on SHEMAKERS. Tonight is a different night. It's National Girls and Women in Sports Day, as well as Black History Month. So we have a lot to celebrate right now. But I wanted to change things up. Often, when we are looking at National Girls and Women in Sports Day, we think to talk to executives who are already leading in the industry. But I want to develop the future generation of leaders, SHEMAKERS. So tonight, I am going to actually pass the mic to Miss Alana McCallion to ask the questions. I really feel bad that I don't have the time to meet with everyone who reaches out to me, whether it's on social or after a career fair, to catch up and do a one-on-one or meet them for coffee so that they can pick my brain. But this conversation hopefully will allow a lot more people to get their questions answered and pick my brain through Alana. Alana and I connected because she reached out to me on LinkedIn. And I was really impressed with the way that she approached me. So many people just send a quick email asking to pick my brain. Alana shared her background, what she was actually interested in the sports industry, and the specific things she wanted to discuss with me. So that's why I invited her to SHEMAKERS. I believe that we can learn from anyone. You may be a veteran in the game, but you can learn something from a rookie, just like rookies can learn from you. So tonight, I am really excited to sit back on this one and let Alana take over the show. Before I bring Alana up, I do want to share with you all just a little bit more about her background. So Alana is a graduating senior at Clemson University. She is studying communications, brand communication, as well as American Sign Language. Since her sophomore year of college, she has been working with the athletic department, and she has a really unique role to photograph the football team. So I am really excited to have Alana here tonight. She, like I said, was very professional and inquisitive, and I am looking forward to all of her questions. Now, since it is college theme and we are developing our SHEMAKERS, please drop in the comments where you're watching from. Share your alma mater or your favorite college football team, and go ahead and put your questions in right now. So tonight, everyone, again, welcome Miss Alana McCallion.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I'm a podcast rookie, so I'm ready to get started.
And I know you're going to kill it. You're going
Let's
to
hope.
come at the gate. Yeah, like touchdowns, home runs. I know you got this based off the way that you approach me. And before we even get started, Alana, I do want to commend you for that. Again, because a lot of people reach out to me. And one thing that I found striking about you is that you were really intentional. And that's so important, especially in a coveted industry like sports. It's really competitive. Millions of people are all vying for positions in sports. So when I get, first of all, you're not going to believe this, but I actually get blanket LinkedIn requests. No introduction at all. Just, hey, I can't say be a friend because it's not Instagram and it's not Facebook. And maybe that's what some Gen Zers do not realize, but just, hey, let me into your network. I want to be connected to you and I want to have access to your entire network without even telling me who they are. So again, I commend you for that. And before you get started on your questions, I have just one question for you. And that is, what made you want to connect with me?
Yeah, so since the beginning of my senior year, I've made it a point to start reaching out to industry professionals to kind of wrap my head around. I already work in college sports, but pro sports is a whole new animal, and I want to understand it to the best of my ability when I'm applying to jobs. So I was looking through I was on the Falcons LinkedIn, and then I went to the people, and then I scrolled down, and I went to the marketing area. I was like, this is the lady I need to talk to. Look at her track record of everywhere she's worked. She knows what she's talking about. She looks incredibly friendly. So I drafted a message, and I made sure to say who I am, why I'm asking you these questions. Because a lot of things that I've heard feedback wise from people like yourself, they get upset when people say, hey, I'm passionate. Can I have a job? So I've learned to kind of steer clear from that and say, look, these are the specific questions I want to ask you. And here I am. Now I'm on a podcast. So this is very exciting.
That is great. Please forgive me. My nephew got a new iPad for Christmas. So he's really excited. Yeah, he just turned 7. So he's really excited about using FaceTime. But that was a great point, Alana. And for me, it's not so much of an annoyance when people just say that they are really passionate about sports. It's more that they are not allowing themselves to stand out. Like, everyone's passionate about sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you. Well, from now, the show is yours.
All right, let me get in my Jimmy Fallon, Conan O'Brien shoes right now.
Yes.
All right, I am ready. So first question to kind of lay the groundwork that we got here. How do you define marketing?
Marketing for me is about motivating people. When I was in school, we studied the 4 P's of marketing, and I'm sure they're really fresh for you, but they are product, placement, pricing, and promotion. So as I was studying those components of marketing, I had an aha moment and said, actually, it's all about people. And that should be the first P, because everything we're doing is for people. We need to motivate them to buy a product or service, to become an evangelist for the product or service, and then encourage other people to do the same thing. So for me, it's about motivating people. And we are looking at really 4 disciplines to motivate them through. So you want a comprehensive strategy that includes product, pricing, placement, and promotion, but it's all rooted in motivating people. And so when you even think about some of the purchases that you have made, you were motivated to do so because of one of those things. It was the product, like your belief that the product was good and it was going to satisfy a need for you. And sometimes that need could be abstract, like it just makes me feel good. or it was the price, the convenience and ease of getting it, which is your placement strategy, or an attractive promotion. And a lot of sports marketing definitely comes in the area of that promotion because we have people as part of our core product, at least on the team side of it. So it's that human interaction that attracts people. So overall, for me, marketing is motivating. And that is my philosophy in how I begin every single strategy that I'm developing.
Absolutely. And I like that you bring up the point about, you got to focus on people. I think a lot of people forget that at the end of the day. And you got to go for the emotional impact that you're going to have on people. Those are the brands that really in and keep you there.
Definitely.
And for my next question, this is kind of more a question for me. So, sports is a competitive industry on and off the field. So, what recommendations do you have for young professionals such as myself who want to enter the industry, and how can they stand out?
One, being intentional like yourself, because it is so competitive, and even at career fairs there are going to be thousands of students all walking up to the same people. So you want to be intentional and do your research beforehand. And when I say research, I'm not just referring to the x's and o's and the scores. So incorporate some business periodicals into your regular reading, not just espn.com or Sports Illustrated, but read The Economist to understand what's happening in the global economy. Read the Sports Business Journal to understand the trends that are happening specifically in our industry. I also encourage students to read something that is specific to your discipline. So if you are thinking about technology or data analytics, read Wired regularly to understand the new technology that's being developed. Of course, if you're interested in marketing, consider adding PR Week or Ad Age to your regular reading time. So starting there with the research, and then you're able to actually have a productive conversation, whether it is in a networking event or in an actual interview. You can identify some of the struggles that an organization may be having, or you can bring some new information to that organization. And that's really how you stand out, by presenting yourself as someone who is already a part of a team and demonstrate that you think critically about the business. Again, you're not just a fan, but you're interested in working in this industry. And I think that is really important. So when you can come into an interview and discuss that you understand that, let's say in the NFL, that teams are having a challenge of competing with devices as well as home entertainment centers, and have a solution for that or have some thoughts around that, that will definitely make you stand out.
Absolutely. And I kind of have a follow-up question about the trends that you mentioned. So, what are some trends that you have noticed in the industry as of late? And are any of these trends something that you think are going to end up sticking and become the industry standard?
Definitely. There are several that I'm actually trying to understand better. And one big one is NFT, non fungible tokens. Like, it's so abstract to me. I still don't understand the value and how I can really incorporate that into my world of fan experience. I did start a pilot program a couple of months ago, but even with some of our fans demonstrating that it is appealing to them, I'm still struggling with it because I don't see the value in it yet. And that's part of the challenge when you are working in this industry, because you have to step outside of yourself. Everything that you're interested in, your fans are not going to be interested in. And that's why research is so important. As I am building programs to attract a younger generation, I'm not Gen Z. I'm not 22 years old. So I'm not going to have the same emotional attachment to things that a 22-year-old will have. I'm also not interested in the same things. So I have to separate, my personal, feelings about things and do the work to see what the audience is interested in. So NFT, one trend, definitely incorporating artificial intelligence into program is another big trend. Being able to have seamless entrances into facilities. So while we want to make sure that the building is secure for all of our events, it's also cumbersome for our fans to take things out of their pockets and basically get undressed like they are at the airports. So, thinking about, biometric security measures so that our fans and guests can, keep everything on and not even, take keys out of their pockets and easily get into the building. And the other thing is that will allow us to have more data about our fans and guests so that we can plan the types of opportunities that they are really interested in.
That's interesting that you say that stuff. I mean, I'm 22 and I still can't wrap my head around the NFT thing. It's something that I definitely have to look more into to kind of get on the trend of that. But I'll get there. I'll look at it right after we end.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you just made me feel better.
yeah. um, so this is kind of more going towards like your personal life a little bit. So how do you maintain healthy work-life balance, especially working in, with two sports that tend to overlap? Obviously that seems to be a time that would get very busy. So how do you maintain that work-life balance?
It's something I have to be really intentional about. I book my entire day. So I have time to read, I have time to focus, and I have, time to work out and do the personal things. So even on a Friday evening, there are times where I have told my friends, that I have a commitment, and that commitment could be a home spa day. So it's not like, an event or anything for work, but just really being intentional about it and forcing yourself to do the things that you need to do for yourself is how I have been able to maintain that work life balance. Literally on my calendar, there are times where it is blocked so no one can plan or schedule a meeting with me, but that time is to focus on work or that time is to learn. Like I literally have an appointment with myself once a week that is learning time. And that's time that I spend reading some of the journals that I encourage you to read, or I am doing research on a new technology that I have learned about, or I'm spending time looking at what other competitors are doing, whether they are, direct competitors, meaning they are inside of the sports industry, or they're outside of the sports industry. Because again, I'm about motivating people and I want to be able to look at how the best brands do it, whether it's, Disney, the Ritz Carlton, Apple, how do they create such fanatical consumers?
Absolutely. And I like that, you have that time for your spa days and everything. I definitely do that too. I hope none of my friends are kind of paying attention to this, but there are times where I'm like, "Oh, I'm very busy," but it's definitely me watching 30 Rock by myself.
And
Um,
you also have to set those boundaries, personally and professionally. I have do not disturb set to start on my phone. So there are often times where I'm apologizing, to friends and colleagues for missing something, but it's important for me to decompress at the end of the day. I do not want my phone ringing. I don't want, alerts from social media. I actually do not get alerts from social media, but I just want that time to decompress before I go to bed. So I have do not disturb. I also have a boundary set with my work phone, and I don't answer it after a certain time. That time changes pending the time of year. Of course, during the playing season, it's different and later than it is during the non-playing season, and also based on event day. So if I have an event, a game, or a match, then that time block changes. But I am really diligent about getting my beauty rest, and I set those boundaries to make sure that I'm not even tempted to. I don't always succeed. There are times where I get up in the morning and I go ahead and look at my phone when I'm not supposed to, but I do set a boundary around that. And I developed that habit, Alana, when I was consulting and working for myself. When I first started my own business, of course, I was, so focused on getting clients and getting clients. Then I wanted to provide good service to keep clients. So I really felt like I had to be available around the clock. And then I just realized that I didn't have to do that. And there are companies that make sure that we respect their boundaries. You can only go to Bank of America at certain times.
That's
and
true.
not every day of the week. Your doctor does not have office hours every single day, and you still do business with them. Bentley isn't open 24 hours a day. Nordstrom isn't open 24 hours a day. So I had to really change that, and thinking about how some of the organizations that I do business with, well, all of them, except, go into emergency, have boundaries. And I had to make that change and value myself, number one, but then be confident in the service that I was providing to my clients. And third, train them. Like, you're not going to have access to Shavanna all of the time. You're going to have, a great campaign, and it will be executed on time and under budget. But I am not going to be available 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I also live that do not disturb life. That was a blessing from Apple. It was a
Yes.
really good update. Just when I'm studying and everything. So the next question I have lined up is about fan experience. So it's kind of a two-parter. So how do you engage with fans year round, even in the off season? And why is fan experience so important?
Well, first, fan experience is so important because they are the foundation to our businesses. Without fans, we wouldn't be in business. And my mission is to, as you said, engage them year round, not just during the playing season. As you may know, a lot of organizations have a start and stop relationship with their fans. So you hear from them all the time during the playing season, and then during the non-playing season, you do not hear from them. And it's unfortunate because that means you're starting the work over every single year. And I have used the analogy of dating with a lot of my colleagues in the industry and said, would anyone ever get to marriage if someone gave them so much attention for 6 months and then didn't give them any attention at all for 6 months and then pops back up? I don't think you'd be taken seriously. So that is why fan experience is so important. It goes beyond game day and match day. It goes beyond being in a ballpark or an arena for a basketball game. It is developing an authentic relationship. And we do that by, one, genuinely getting to know who our fans are. You can't plan anything nice if you don't know who they are. Using the dating analogy again, if you don't know that the person, hates seafood, and you plan seafood, they're not going to be excited to spend time with you that evening. So that's the first step in 365 marketing or engagement, as I refer to it. And then being able to plan those activities, still bringing them into the stadium, celebrating their milestones, whether it's a birthday or anniversary, children graduating from high school or college. Again, these are people, so we have to look at them as people and not just consumers or fans.
That dating analogy is fantastic. I've never thought of it like that, and I'm absolutely going to add that to my lingo if it's okay with you.
Yes, please do.
So my next question is kind of more for people who are already in the professional work world, but maybe they have a change of heart and they want to join the sports industry, and just kind of basing it off of your experience. So what was the transition like for you for working with then Senator Hillary Clinton to the Washington Wizards, excuse me. What advice would you give to people who are maybe not switching roles, but they're drastically switching industries?
I would tell them, one, to focus on the skill set, because whether you are working in communications on Capitol Hill or communications at the Washington Wizards, it's communication. So those fundamentals are still relevant. And I think that a lot of people get nervous because they don't have any sports experience. Well, we don't need sports enthusiasts to do accounting, communications, um, run the legal department, or even fan experience. What we need are people who think critically and have mastered the technical work in that area of the business. So think about that. I also encourage you to talk to other people about the work that you do. Often we do so many things in our work that we don't, it's innate, it becomes innate for us. So we don't think about them as special. And we also do not list out everything that we do. So talking to someone else about your work pulls out details that you don't think to include when you're applying for a role or even writing your cover letter. And I know that often cover letters are not read, but I also encourage people who are switching careers or just making that transition to a new industry to use the cover letter to tell the story about how you implement programs and ideas and how you work with people so the organization can see what you're bringing to the table as a person as opposed to just the accomplishments that are listed on the resume. And from a calm standpoint, since you did bring up my time in Senator Clinton's office, I will tell anyone if you are interested in becoming a comms pro, politics is where you should definitely spend some time, even if it's working on one single campaign. In politics, especially in the role that I was in, just working with a high profile senator who was first lady. And when I started working with her, she was a junior senator and she had only been in the US Senate for 9 months. Prior to that, she was the first lady. So she had a global presence, and we worked with all of the bureaus. I mean, from, of course, Washington Times and New York Times, but also, Al Jazeera. And you learn so much by working with diverse people who have different needs, even communicating the same message. The way someone in Saudi Arabia wants to talk about Senator Clinton is completely different than someone who is in New York. Also, learning all of the different constituents and moving so fast, literally in politics. In sports, we say that every event is different, but in politics, every day is different. And we are constantly focused on people because you literally have your job because of people.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that transition from politics to sports wasn't like, it didn't blow you over because you got to be on your toes for both, no matter what. So I'd imagine that was kind of a part that wasn't too difficult for you.
It was
Um,
it's funny because there are things that people in sports were nervous about, and it just did not phase me. Again, thinking about the time that I was with Senator Clinton as well, this was right after 9/11. So, we represented the state of New York. And that was definitely a traumatic experience for all of her constituents. And we had so much work to do. And we were all learning New York. I mean, even Senator Clinton is not from New York. So it was truly a great learning experience. It was humbling, and it definitely helped me to basically like quickly level set.
Gosh, I'm learning so much right now. So, so the next question that I have, it's also kind of a two-parter. I think it's kind of a two-parter. So, what is something that they don't tell you about working in sports, and what are some challenges that you face working in sports?
Gosh, so many. Um, what do they not tell you? Uh, I don't think that there's anything specifically that they do not tell you because in your coursework, they are really focused on the discipline itself, giving you the technical skills. I think it's more about not understanding the people side to that. Like you are working with people, and your work is to, again, motivate people. So, not understanding the dynamics of a workplace and learning to manage up. When you first come out of school, you are entering an environment, and most people will have an entry level position. So, how do you pitch your ideas to senior management? How do you, balance being respectful to leaders in the organization, but also standing firm in your ideas and getting your ideas across? How do you then manage people and train them in the best ways? I think those are more of the things than anything that is technical.
Absolutely. Um, and sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now, so I'm just gonna go to the next question. So, what has been your most rewarding project or moment working in the sports industry, whether it be Heels and Helmets, whether it be with Mercedes-Benz Stadium, whatever you're feeling here?
I have a couple. One project that I worked on when I was consulting independently was a GMC Monday Night Football program. And for me, it was really rewarding because it touched on everything that I was passionate about. Of course, it was football, but the program touched on community as well as events. So the program was a sponsorship, of course, with GMC and Monday Night Football, but United Way Worldwide started a challenge around obesity. And they had a goal to basically increase the number of Americans who had, at number of American youth who were obese. So I put together a program that included a really cool experience with GMC and test driving vehicles. And then on the final day of the weekend, the Tuesday after Monday Night Football, we then built a playground in each community that had a stop that year with former players and current players. So that project was really rewarding for me because of the results that it achieved, creating awareness about adolescent obesity, as well as the exposure that it garnered, and then the fun that was had, being able to have youth out and learn in a way that is, very attractive to them and engaging. And then on the sports side, just planning events and being able to, travel to like 14 different NFL markets, excuse me. So that was really fun. Personally, this warms my heart, to be able to have a conversation with a student such as yourself to share some words of wisdom and give advice so you can have all the touchdowns earlier and mitigate some of the fumbles that I had in my career. As part of Hills and Helmets, we have this program called the Bullpen. We have not done it in a couple years, but basically, as you know, all of our work is through the context of sports. So the Bullpen is a program in which women pitch their businesses. And I partnered with Capital One on this program, and the best pitcher business pitcher that is, received the rookie startup package, which included, a financial donation from Capital One. So that type of experience is really rewarding to me, to just be a conduit for information and resources and to help women succeed. So when I share that this program is about helping women develop their winning playbooks for life and business, for me, it truly is. It is not a clever tag that I came up with, but it's something that I'm truly passionate about.
Yeah, and clearly you're doing great work through this. This is clearly affecting so many people in great ways. And like bringing back to the playground thing, what a great and effective way to get kids outside. I mean, it seems just like so obvious, but I remember when I was little, like Nickelodeon would have like the worldwide day of play and they'd just go off the air for a while. And like kids are like, man, like I just kind of want to watch TV. But if I had like a playground in my backyard, I'd be out and about. I just not if like a television was telling me to go outside, but if it was already there, I'd be all over that. Um, so just great
Especially when
stuff.
you get to deal with some NFL players as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, oh my God. If I did that when I was younger, my dad's head would just explode from excitement. Um, so kind of going back to like entry level employees again. So what are essential skills and attributes that people like me should have to enter this world?
Communication. Even if you are working in an area that is not directly is not communication, like there are some departments that we all know obviously they need communication skills, whether it is the communications department, public relations, digital, even fan experience and events, because we are communicating directly with our audiences, but also internally we are communicating with one another to share ideas, to recap the work, to discuss the research that we have discovered. So communication is key. No matter what your role is, you have to communicate from the very beginning. In an interview, you're communicating. Once you're in the role, you have to communicate your needs from an employment standpoint and negotiate. And all of that has to be, packaged in a way that's going to be attractive to the person you are speaking to. And you have a lot of different personalities in the workplace. So, how you would communicate an idea to your chief, human resources officer is going to be very different than communicating to an intern and explaining the work. Pitching an idea to the CRO, your chief revenue officer, whose KPI is going to be money, 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 and revenue, is going to be very different than communicating to the, vice president of brand, because their objectives are completely different. And finally, just on the human level, being able to communicate effectively to everyone in the organization, from security guards to your, colleagues, because it is a teaming environment. So communication is so important. If you are trying to mitigate a problem and come up with a solution, you have to be able to communicate.
That's really good to hear as a communications major. I'm really happy to hear about that. Um, so next, I don't believe I've asked this yet, but what is a typical day in the life for you in the sports industry? What does that look like during the season, postseason?
First, I don't have a typical day. I can share what some of the days look like, but I honestly do not have a typical day. During the playing season, my week goes from research, plan, execute, research, plan, execute, because each game and each map are unique. Of course, there are things that are standard and the template is there. We know that we have kickoff, we know we have halftime, we know we have pregame, but each game is truly unique. And we are constantly trying to improve that experience. So I say it starts with research because let's say it's a Sunday game. Sunday, we have the game. Monday, we are surveying. Monday, Tuesday, we're looking at research, analyzing the verbatims, quickly making adjustments, especially if we're playing the next Sunday. Planning, and then it's back to executing. So that is what the work week looks like. Of course, a lot of the strategy is done during the non-playing season. So we're getting the big ideas together. But still, during the season, we are implementing changes throughout. So we want to progressively get better. So even though we have that big strategy at the beginning of the season, we still don't know how everyone's going to react to it until we're actually in game day or match day. So after the first match, we're taking a look at it. The Atlanta United season kicks off on February 27th. On the 28th and 29th, we'll be looking at how that match went and then making, some plans to tweak. And then it goes back into the execution. And in my work, that truly includes everything. I know from just the title, when people think fan experience, they're automatically thinking about activations and the fun opportunities that are happening. But fan experience is truly the entire experience. So, what do we need to communicate before the game? What does the gate loop script need to sound like? Not just the script, but what does it need to sound like? The voice inflection. Where do we need emphasis so that people have an easy time getting into the stadium? We need to look at concession stands and how we can move people through the building so we do not have bottleneck situations at certain concession stands. We talked a little bit earlier about technology, and that plays into security. What are our traffic patterns like? So a lot goes into making sure that the experience is smooth outside of just the fun part of that experience. So that's during the playing season. During the non-playing season, and on the MLS side, you do not have a very long non-playing season. It is literally like 8 weeks. So that is time where we can breathe a little bit, and really it's focusing on the strategy. So you're putting more time into that research that I talked about, looking at opportunities to make the larger changes. So if we're going to think about, let's say rewiring the stadium, that would be looked at during the non-playing season. Developing a new point of sale, making improvements even from an aesthetic standpoint, and incorporating new art. All of those things will be done during the non-playing season. So I do not have the busyness of research, plan, execute, repeat, research, plan, execute during the non-playing season.
And this is kind of a follow-up, but, like, during that, in the heat of the moment, during the season, excuse me, how do you keep a positive mindset? How do you approach your work every day to have a successful day, week, month, year?
Yeah. For me, the previous roles that I had before coming into sports truly helped me. We talked briefly about my time in Senator Clinton's office, but when you have worked in an area where you have seen people face real challenges, whether it's they can't afford health insurance or they are, really frustrated because of social justice. In one of my roles when I was consulting, I worked on a project with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. So meeting Trayvon Martin's family and his parents, and going through the hurt that they've experienced, and again working with Senator Clinton after 9/11 and going to New York and seeing the ashes there and the devastation. I have those experiences that truly help me put things in perspective. And that's why I said the experience definitely helps me level set. I'm passionate about my work. So I will be the first person to, be really critical of myself, beat myself up. But I do, check myself. Like, it's business and you want to do your best, but it's also not Armageddon. So those are the things that I remind myself of when I am, facing challenges with my work or things have not gone as planned.
Yeah, it's great to keep perspective like that, because work, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. There's so many more important things to think of and keep in perspective. So clearly the industry you're in is always about staying fresh and relevant. So how do you keep that creative mindset going to kind of stay ahead of the competition and be the industry standard?
It is doing some of the things that I shared with you or encourage you to do. Reading to see what is happening in the industry, also taking experiences so that I can, make that competitive analysis to the work that we are doing. And it's, talking to people outside of the industry. How are my, my peers and counterparts in different industry, in continuing to engage their clients and their consumers. So an example is I was talking to a friend who works with Audi, and they were explaining a new program that they have for Audi drivers. And I'm in sports, but he gave me an idea for my industry. So that's really important. I encourage people to, especially now with technology, take advantage of all of the virtual learning opportunities. There are so many things over the last 2 years I have participated in that I would not have participated in because they now offer a virtual experience as well. In 2020, they only had virtual conferences, summits, and seminars. But since then, they now have two options, an in-person option and a virtual option. And I've been able to take advantage of some of the things that honestly I would not have been able to do if they did not have a virtual option, including networking lunches. To go to a networking lunch, it ends up being like 3 hours out of your day, driving to get there, parking, experiencing the lunch. And it's important, but 3 hours out of my day, especially during the playing season, is not effective for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a huge chunk of anyone's day, and I'm sure it's a huge chunk of yours.
Yes.
Um, so one of my final questions here, kind of in honor of National Women and Girls in Sports Day, what kind of advice do you have for women who maybe, entering the sports industry or just trying to get more familiar with sports? There's still the stereotype that sports is the male dominated industry, but there's so many great things to love about sports, and it's really not that hard to understand either. I think there's that misconception that sports are difficult, but really not. So like what kind of advice do you have to encourage women to really get invested in sports?
I encourage women to think about it as another tool in your business toolbox. If someone came to me and said, "Oh, Shavanna, I read that when you were in college, you worked in Spain. How did you get that job with Benetton?" Well, I learned the language and the culture so that I could, work in Salamanca. So that's what or how I encourage young ladies who are not interested in sports, do not have that passion already, to think about it. Like, this is not an area where you have to be fake. I want women to own their femininity. But as a tool in your business toolbox, take some time to learn, just like with anything else. Using the example of my studies in Spain, I had to communicate with the people in Spain. I had to communicate with the people in Spain. So I needed to learn their language. So to communicate with the majority in sports, learn the language. And sports is a really easy way to strike up conversations. And I have this course that I teach through Hills and Helmets. It's called Football for Business. And in the course, what's really different than colleges or even pro teams that have football 101, my training really helps the audience, not just women, the audience understand the business analogies and the positions so that they can use it in conversation. Sports makes you, very approachable. It's a comfortable and non-threatening way to, share information or strike up a conversation. And I also tell women that you don't have to know it inside and out. You could just ask one question or make a statement, and the rest of the conversation will be spent with someone who is really into sports, just talking about it. Like, if you went to the office tomorrow and just asked someone, "Well, what was so great about Tom Brady?" No sports, but if you just said that, trust me, like, a lot of people are going to, start talking about it, and you could just be quiet for 30 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure asking that will probably spend a couple people will spend long time explaining why Tom Brady is the best.
Exactly. I mean,
He,
you're gonna get some big eyeballs when you say it, but
yeah,
you
you're
open the door
definitely
to a conversation, and it's all about that connection. Again, all of this is connecting with people, and one easy way to do it is through sports. I remember after one of my trainings, this young lady, she was an attorney or is an attorney, and she explained to me that she learned like how important sports was when she was going through the interview process. She said she was like an L2, completed the second year law school and came out of interviews at some AM 100 law firm. And her guy colleague was just like, "Oh, that was the best. They were so easy and it was fun." And she was like, "No, they were mean. That was the, roughest one." So he started off by talking about Michigan football. So the rest of the time, that's really what they were talking about. And she didn't have that connection. So after the training, she definitely expressed like, "Man, this would really be good for ladies who are in law school, just to understand the fundamentals of it, to be able to strike up a conversation."
yeah, especially with a question like Tom Brady now. I mean, that's and I'm a Giants fan and I could talk great things about him. I mean,
Right.
he's the goat.
Well, we
Um,
were in Arbor at the same time, so definitely am a little biased, and that's probably why it was top of mind, for me to use as an example. It
absolutely.
is headline news right now, though. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. So we actually got through all of the questions that I wrote, and I did not anticipate going through all of them.
nice.
Um,
Well, great, 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 because I have a couple for you. Even though you were the interviewer this evening, I cannot let you get away without doing what is now a She-Makers tradition. So when I have guests on at the end of each show, we or I will ask them to complete 3 sentences. So Are you ready for yours?
Yes, I am. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. The first one is no one can dab better than me because.
No one can dab better than me? Oh my god, I think everyone can dab better than me. Oh my god, okay. Because I have the passion. I don't have the skills, but I have the passion.
Right. Love it. See, there you go. The second statement is my favorite song to karaoke to in the shower is.
Ooh, oh man, that's a tough one. I love More Than a Woman probably right now. That's been my go-to.
Awesome. Awesome. And then finally, the book about Miss Alana will be titled.
Ooh. If I was gonna write a book right now, I'm gonna preface, I have senioritis, I'm in college, so it'd probably be something like I'd rather be at work, which I'm sure wouldn't be very hard to get the title for that because I'm sure that's never been written before. But I love my work and I've been in school since preschool, so I'm kind of ready to graduate.
Well, thank you so much, Alana. This was great. Before we close out, why don't you just share with everyone a little bit more about your background and what you're hoping to do after May?
Yeah, so I'm Alana McCallion. I go to Clemson University. I kind of found I've always enjoyed sports. I've watched sports with my dad since I was really little. Huge New York Giants fan, New York Rangers, all the New York sports. Um, and that passion just kind of took hold in college since I've been able to work in photography. And I'm hoping to kind of continue the creative aspect of the work I do now in the sports industry. But I'm very flexible. I'm a communications major. I'm a brand comm minor, so I know I could kind of fit in many areas, not just photo, just building brands in general. So I'm, hoping to end up at a pro sports team, but we'll see how everything plays out.
Now, I am curious, what made you add American Sign Language as an area of study?
So I took that as an elective my senior year of high school, and I came into Clemson undecided, and then I made sign language my major. And I'm still very passionate about it, but not to the degree that I am with communications and sports communications and all that. But it's something that I really love, and I mean, you get to talk with your hands. It's awesome. It's a great tool to have, and it's been very exciting learning about the deaf community.
Awesome. So, any final thoughts or questions?
Just thank you for having me on. I mean, this is my first podcast ever, and I mean, got this in the tool belt now. I'm feeling good, feeling fresh. I
That's
really
awesome.
appreciate this.
Well, I am happy to have offered this opportunity to you. I think it's a much better way a much better way, excuse me, to get together and allow someone to pick my brain than a Zoom or even Starbucks. So thank you, Alana, for your interest as well as your professionalism and follow through as we planned this evening. It was so nice to meet you in person and spend time with you over the last couple of days. I certainly look forward to remaining in touch and continuing to learn from you. And I wish you all the best in your final semester at Clemson.
Thank you so much. And likewise, I've learned so much from you already.
Have a good evening. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on SHEMAKERS Live. I'm really happy to be back for season 2. Man, I want to put my Mary J. Blige Just Fine back on. I would have kept it on. But of course, if I did, then YouTube and Facebook would have taken this down. So we couldn't continue our party. But I do look forward to having an in-person event so we can keep the party going. And this summer we'll definitely get back to our golf clinics, and that will give us an opportunity to not just play Mary J, but all of our other jams. Thank you so much. A lot to celebrate this month between Black History Month as well as today being National Girls and Women in Sports Day. I want to just give a shout out to all of my sisters that I've worked with in sports throughout the years, from the Washington Wizards, Mystics, Capitals, Verizon Center at the time, which is now Capital One Arena, to the Detroit Lions, my time consulting NFL and GMC, Monday Night Football, United Way Worldwide, the AMBSC family, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta United, as well as Atlanta Falcons, and all of the partners, from Levy Restaurants to Safe. I've been really fortunate, as I said earlier, to just work with some incredible people, and I'm truly, truly grateful for that experience. I also see some other veterans who listened in this evening. So big thanks to, Gia and Ardelia. I see you all. Look forward to having them on as well to, impart some words of wisdom on you all, and definitely to my family for all of their support. I see my cousin, Mr. Ford, and my sister, Shay. So thank you all for joining me to kick off season 2. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, just remember that Hills and Helmets is wherever you are. So you can follow us on our social channels. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as Instagram. We have some really cool content coming up. This month, you can follow our stories. It is featuring 28 women, African-American women, answering one question. And that is, what is your Black girl magic? So be sure to follow so you can see all of the magic that Black women are contributing in the sports industry. Thank you again for all of your support and for watching this evening. Remember, you are a she-maker, and I am here to help you unleash your power, make big plays, get in the end zone, and win. Until next week, have a great week.